Another beautiful good morning to you all. How you doing today? Oh yes, we're going to do some more work on motorizing my uncle. Alright, I want to show you what I clamped up here and show you how this is going to work here. Now, we got this lined up pretty much, and we got it lined up to the shaft, but as you can see we're going to have to cut the threaded rod a little bit, but it is not going to affect the throw whatsoever, because here it is. The coupler will go in here, the little rubber hose, and will be clamped on with one of these hose clamps. But before we even do that, we have a piece of plywood that we're going to go from here over to here as a spacer, because these sides are only cardboard and we need to keep these sides solid. So we're going to put a piece across here, and then we're going to have a piece going probably from here to here, but I'm not sure whether I'm going to use plywood or a stick or whatever, just to keep this thing so the spacing will always be the same, because these sides here, as I said, are only cardboard. So we need this, make it stronger, and unfortunately it'll be heavier, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to do our thing here. So right now we got the piece of plywood over here measured at 14 inches, and we're going to have a angle like that that'll screw into each side. So I'll have one here and here. So I'm about to cut that right now, and I start a little long so I can wedge it in there and get the distance necessary, and then trim it if I have to. Alright, I got this piece just stuck in here, but what I'm going to do, it's not interfering with this, but it's on the edge of the wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this clamp here. I'm going to put this on the flat like this, and then I'm going to cut a circle out halfway across the board here to accommodate this so it doesn't interfere, and this will be like a shelf. It'll also keep this plywood properly squared off on both sides here. 14 inches happens to be a perfect spread for this. And the threaded rod will still have to be cut, but that's not a problem. I just need this thing to be on a straight square and also solid. So what I'm going to do now is to take some more measurements and lay this on the flat. So in other words, it's out straight. I can't do it now because I got to cut here and I got to cut here, make a circle. And then I'm going to put the L clamp in here, the L bracket I should say, and an L bracket here to mount that. Alright, I just stuck this plywood in here now and cut out enough so that this will clear. Now naturally this thing is not straight. As you can see, she wants to lean over that way. It is because of the way I made that top there. But that throw, as you can plainly see, is way out of range of the threaded rod. The throw is really going to be right about there. That's the maximum throw right there. Now let's take a look at his head outside. Alright, that's the maximum throw on that end. You know, you got to remember this character is 113 years old and he's lucky if he can turn his head at all. Actually, I moved it a 1/4 inch more, so that's the absolute max that his head will turn on that side, and that's all right, because here's the front of it. If you're looking dead on him right now, that's not bad. That's the best I can do under the conditions and the materials that I'm working with. After all, you don't want his head to spin completely around. That would be neat, but that would be a whole nother project altogether. Going to the other extreme, that's the absolute max for that. You know, I can't complain about this. Looks good enough for my needs anyways. Well, as you can see here, I've got the piece across the top, two L brackets here. This comes close, but it doesn't hit. And it very, very close, but it don't hit. But that's way beyond the throw. I mean, his head is way over here. It doesn't go that far. Anyways, down at the bottom, in order to keep these pieces straight, I just put a little piece of wood here, and I'm going to put a screw down here. But, you know, this box is all cardboard, so, you know, it's kind of hard to keep the weight down. But now, if you look, this is why I didn't want to cut this rod yet. See? Before I had to cut about 1.5 inches off the rod. Here it looks like I'm only going to have to cut about a 1/2 inch off the rod. That's perfect to get that to butt up there. But I won't cut the rod until I get this piece in. Because now, with this piece here and this piece fastened down, it's just wedged in there. It's exactly 14 inches. Same with this. So we're square. Square as it possibly can be. And there's room for 1 or 2 batteries in here, and the terminal board where all these wires are going to end up before they come out to the long wired remote that I'm going to have on this, which is a good 6 to 8 feet. I just got to get a multi-strand wire. I got to have a wire for the head controller, you know, the head motor, the eye motor, and if I can find a solenoid that'll operate strong enough to operate that mouth, then I'm going to need wires for that. Of course, they'll all share a common negative, so there's no problem there. All right, now this motor is I've been running it on 6 volts. It's a 12-volt motor. But if I find the head is turning too slow, I can just apply 12 volts to it, because I'm going to use a 12-volt battery in here, and there's plenty of room for a gel cell to go in here. Well, I got to finish up in here now. I got to get this down. I got to cut this with a bolt cutter, this sharp screw coming through here. We just had to kind of like butcher the side a little bit to put the screws in, but this is all going to be covered anyway, so it's not a problem. And when we get done here, we can remove all the clamps and stuff. But right now, I want to get this part down here first. Alright, I cut the threaded rod, and this will go in there like that, and you can see there's actually there's a little more space than I'd like it to be. Thought I measured that quick, but of course the damn washer keeps falling off of here. So there's a washer that's goes up in here, and I get grease in there too. Well, that's not too bad. Now, I don't know if the hose clamp, this is pretty hard, this is pretty rigid stuff. It does flex though. I don't know if the little hose clamp is going to hold it on there real tight or not. But I have some thin, hard wire, like baling wire. There's a hole in here. I don't know if you can see that, but anyways, there's a hole in the shaft. What I'm going to probably do is see if I can make a hole through this. That's going to be hard to get it lined up. Put that in there. That'll keep it from spinning around, and then put the hose clamp on top of that. As far as this end is concerned, this hose will screw tightly onto the threads here. So when I put the clamp on that, that should be no problem. Alright, I got a thin piece of hard wire in there, like baling wire, to go through the pin. And what I'm going to do is I'll open these clamps up and I'll clamp it over the top of that. And then the other clamp will be down here for the threaded rod. And we've got enough here on the so-called homemade bearing surface here. And this is a 1/4 inch piece of plywood. We got a 1/4 inch spacing here, and got just about the same here with less than a quarter here, which is what I want for the double nut routine and the lock washer. Um, if I can't get two nuts on there, there isn't enough room to get two nuts on that, I'll just use one with the lock washer, and hopefully that'll be enough. We don't want that coming off, because that could be the problem area right here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to slide this, open this clamp up if I can. Open it up anymore. If not, that might be good enough without a clamp on this one, but I've got two clamps that I slid on here already. Alright, I got the two clamps on there. So now the next step is this thing here. Well, it's hooked up. Now the motor's a 12 volt. I've been running it on 6, but the head turns real slow. I was afraid of that. I couldn't, that's why I needed an Acme thread type of rod, but then I'd have no coupling. I wouldn't be able to find a coupling for it. So we're going to try 12 volts on this thing and see if it works. This head moves, but I'll tell you, it's real slow. Not exactly the way I had hoped it would work. I thought it would move pretty good, considering this is 150 RPM. But we need a much coarser thread to be able to move this thing with aggression. Well, I'm charging the batteries right now. They ran right down very quickly, but I've been using them and I haven't been charging them. So I got the two 6-volt batteries charging in series on a 12-volt trickle charger. The whole apparatus works pretty damn good, but the problem is it's not moving fast enough. You can see the head turning, but it's not going to be turning like I'd hoped it to. You know, kind of like move like this. Hello! Hey, Sammy! What are you doing today, huh? So I got them both charged. They're two different batteries, but they're both 6 volts. And we're just charging them in series, 12 volts. So we are going to use a 12-volt battery in the figure. So right now, that's about all I can do. I put some oil on this, but I'm going to put some more on. But I had to play around a little bit with this thing to get it to fit in there. I got the lock nut in there. But I could not get a double nut in there. There wasn't enough room, and the only way I could do that was to lift this up so I'd have more room under here, and I'm not about to do that. You know, we're splitting hairs. I wanted to double nut it, but I think locking it down with the lock, I was able to get the lock nut, and it was very difficult to get up in there to keep the lock nut from sliding out all the time, because you know you have to put the bottom nut, you have to install it underneath here. You can't just put it on and then slide it through, because the spacing in this here won't allow the nut to go through, so you have to do everything from the bottom. And different size screws. I've tried this one, and it's too long, and so we're using the shorter one. That's why I bought a foot of this Teflon tubing here, because you know, this is all experimental. You know, I got different length screws over here and so forth. So that's the way it is now. We're going to let this battery charge up. What I am going to do is I'm going to be running a 12-volt system in here, but for the eyes, the eye motor is a 6-volt motor. We're not going to put 12 volts on it. We're going to make a voltage divider, or we'll just use one of them 6-volt batteries to run the eyes only. Not a problem there. But this will have to be run on 12, which is what it's designed for anyways. So I think what we're going to do today, I think we're going to end this project today. I can't do any more until the batteries charge up, and I can't do anything with the micro switches because I have to see if I got any micro switches. I have a couple of them that from a junk microwave I might be able to use. And then the next thing, after I get this worked out and get the micro switches for the shutoff circuit and get my circuit terminal strip board made up down here for all these connections, then I got to work on the mouth trigger solenoid. And that's, if you looked at the video, if you've been following this video series, you will find that I had a solenoid from the American Science and Surplus, but it's not strong enough. It's a 24 volt solenoid. I need a 12 volt solenoid that will have a lot of pull. So that's going to be a big challenge after I get through with this. But and while the batteries are charging up, well, that's all we can do today. See you on the next part.